Hello and welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is August Wilson's Joe Turner's Come and Gone, the new Broadway revival of August Wilson's play, directed by Debbie Allen, playing at the Ethel Barrymore Theatre. Now, before I jump into this great play, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me grow my channel. Let your friends know, let your enemies know, let anyone who loves theater know about this channel and tell them to come join so we can talk about some of these plays playing in New York. All right, so what did I know going into this one? I'm very familiar with this play. I saw it for the first time 17 years ago when Lincoln Center Theater produced it at the Belasco Theater, and it was directed by Bartlett Sher. That production blew me away. There are images from that staging that are still stuck in my head, and I loved the cast. So, I'll be up front. I walked into this production, this new revival, with high expectations. I also knew a few things about this revival specifically. I knew some of the actors, of course. I knew that Debbie Allen was directing, which is a big deal because this is her first August Wilson play she's directed on Broadway. And I knew Ruben Santiago-Hudson was playing Bynum Walker, who is probably my favorite character in this whole play. Ruben is an August Wilson guy through and through. He's directed Wilson, he's performed Wilson for decades, and I'll tell you right now, he does not disappoint. I became familiar with Ruben Santiago-Hudson when he did his play that he wrote, produced, and directed called Lackawanna Blues. He played something like 20, 25 characters in it. It blew me away. It was so incredible. I think there's a movie of it. Go check it out. So here's a little history on Joe Turner's Come and Gone before we get into the review of this revival. This is the second play in August Wilson's 10-play Pittsburgh cycle, sometimes called the Century Cycle, where Wilson set out to write one play for each decade of the 20th century, chronicling the African-American experience. Now, Joe Turner is the one set in the 1910s. Wilson got the seed of the idea for this play from a painting by Romare Bearden called Mill Hand's Lunch Bucket. It shows a defeated-looking man in a hat and coat, and that image became Harold Loomis. The play was actually called Mill Hand's Lunch Bucket for a while before Wilson landed on the title we know now. The play had its first stage reading in 1984 at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center up in Connecticut. It premiered at Yale Rep in 1986 and then made its Broadway debut in 1988. And here's an interesting little fact. Its Broadway premiere was at the Ethel Barrymore Theatre, the exact same stage that the revival is now playing at. The original Broadway cast included Delroy Lindo as Harold Loomis and a young Angela Bassett as Martha. Then in 2009, Bartlett Sher and Lincoln Center brought it back to Broadway at the Belasco Theater, and that's the one I saw. Chad L. Coleman played Loomis, Ernie Hudson played Seth, and Roger Robinson won the Tony for Best Featured Actor for his portrayal of Bynum. So this is the second Broadway revival of this play. One more bit of context worth knowing. August Wilson himself said that Joe Turner was his favorite of his own plays. So the material is sacred territory. So here's the setup briefly. We're in Pittsburgh in 1911 in a boarding house run by Seth Hawley and his wife Bertha. Played here by Cedric the Entertainer and Taraji P. Henson. The boarding house sits at the crossroads of the Great Migration. Black folks are moving north out of the South looking for work, looking for family they've been separated from, and looking for themselves. Living there is Bynum Walker, a root worker, a kind of conjuring man, played by Ruben Santiago-Hudson. Bynum believes every person has a song, which is a sense of self, and if you lose it, he can help you find it again. Passing through are Jeremy, a young guitar player, Maddie Campbell, a woman abandoned by the man she loved, and Molly Cunningham, a more independent spirit. Rutherford Seeley, a white peddler called the People Finder, moves in and out of the boarding house, and he's tracking down missing relatives for a fee. And then Harold Loomis arrives, played by Joshua Boone, with his young daughter, Zonia. Loomis is haunted. He was kidnapped by a real-life figure, Joe Turner, the bounty hunter brother of the Tennessee governor, and forced into 7 years of illegal labor. He's been searching for his wife, Martha, ever since he was released, and his arrival cracks this boarding house wide open. So, that's the play. It's about finding your song after the world has tried to steal it or beat it out of you. So let's start with some positive. Let's talk about the cast. The cast is strong across the board. Now, August Wilson writes such distinct, full-bodied characters that a good actor can just take these characters and run with it. And every single actor in this production really leans in and adds their own touch to these characters. Cedric the Entertainer as Seth is no joke. He is funniest when he isn't even speaking. Just his reactions to what's happening around him is hilarious. I think he's great in this role. Taraji P. Henson is making her Broadway debut as Bertha, and she brings so much warmth and humor and life to this kitchen that she practically lives in. She's almost doing too much, but not quite. She still keeps it all believable. She's a lot of fun. Ruben Santiago-Hudson as Bynum is the same way. He's almost doing too much, but not quite. He keeps it believable. These are big characters, and I really bought every second of what he was putting across. And honestly, Ruben really runs away with the play. Nimene Sierra Wureh as Maddie Campbell is fantastic. She's really grounded, she's fragile yet strong, and she's funny in her own right, but doesn't feel like she's trying to be, and you can't help but love her. We have Bradley Steiker as Rutherford Seeley, and he's good, but I feel a little bit that in trying to keep up with these really big comedic actors, that I feel like he's pushing a little hard sometimes and tipping into caricature. In fact, his second scene where he meets Harold Loomis and he's writing down the details to help him find her, he does this comedic bit where he just writes really slowly. And yes, it's funny, but it pulled me out of the play. I felt like it was a little forced, and it was added probably a good 5 minutes to this play. There are two child actors in this show. They play Zonia and Ruben, and they do a good job. You know, they are kids, so their scenes require a little bit more direction and patience than the adult scenes, but that's going to be true of any Wilson production with children in it. Now, the set design is gorgeous. The staging is, for the most part, very effective. I love the play, I love these performers, and for long stretches, I was loving this production. But I do have a caveat, and my caveat is around the character of Harold Loomis, which is a big problem to have because Harold Loomis is the linchpin, the gravitational center of this whole endeavor. And there are two issues for me. One is a staging choice and one is the performance itself. First, the staging. August Wilson often writes a supernatural, otherworldly moment into his plays, and Joe Turner is no exception. Late in Act 1, Loomis's character comes back to the house in some kind of altered state. Maybe he's drunk, I'm not sure, and he flips out. And he has this vision of bones coming out of the water. And Bynum acts as a guide and kind of talks him through it, like he's helping him through this dream. And the director, Debbie Allen, has staged this by turning all the other actors into part of Loomis's vision. They start to move in slow motion. They start rocking side by side, like the waves. They start reaching out, like we as the audience are inside his head with him. And I didn't really love this choice because the next morning, Seth tells Loomis he has to leave the boarding house. He doesn't want this kind of behavior under his roof. But if we've just watched the other boarders become part of the vision, their reaction to Loomis as a person gets lost or muddied. And I would rather see the drama of a man losing it in front of these people and watch their reactions to this man than be pulled inside his craziness into this dream with the lights changing and we're all of a sudden in this other place. So for my money, having them react to him in real time is more interesting than becoming part of the vision. Okay, then there's the performance. Joshua Boone plays Harold Loomis, and he goes from 0 to 100 really fast, and then stays at 100 in his scenes. It doesn't feel like there's enough levels, and it ends up feeling untruthful. It feels melodramatic. And because Loomis is a mysterious, dark character, my instinct is that less is more. Just the fear and discomfort that the other characters are feeling around him does a lot of the work for you. So when I first saw this play, and Chad Coleman played Loomis at Lincoln Center, and I slowly came to understand this dark figure. His final monologue where he tells his daughter that she needs to go with her mother because he doesn't want her to grow up to be a half person. It landed so strong with me. I still remember that monologue. And I remember sitting there and really feeling and understanding who this man was. But in this production, Loomis came across to me as someone who had really been broken by Joe Turner and really had lost his self and had no path back. He seemed to lose control of his mental faculties, and I didn't really feel the love between him and his daughter. I didn't understand why he needed to say goodbye to his wife and to his daughter, and I really had a hard time relating to him. And I couldn't grieve with him. And this is a little spoiler, so skip ahead if you don't know this play, skip ahead maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Bynum keeps talking about a shining man that he's waiting for. And the reveal at the end of the play is that Loomis is that shining man. And this is a magical moment to me that is where the otherworldly staging energy that we saw earlier should have been here. A shift of lighting, maybe him shining with some lights behind him. And in this version of the play, that moment just didn't land with the weight that I thought it needed. Now, some of that is the acting, some of that is the staging, but it's the penultimate image of a 2-hour and 20-minute play, and I wanted to be blown away, but I wasn't. And I also think the whole production hasn't really gelled yet. You've got 8 great actors giving really great individual performances, but it still feels like individual performances rather than one breathing, living organism. And that takes time. I've seen plenty of Wilson productions find that collected rhythm a few weeks into a run, and I hope that this one does that too. I think it will. And when it coheres, I think that will also help to lift up Loomis along with it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the scenic, the lighting, and the costume design. Not always the most exciting stuff for me, but let's get into it. This is a very naturalistic set, which I love. It looks great. It looks authentic. The stage has been divided in half with the kitchen on one side and the sitting room on the other, so that this play is kind of taking place on one side of the other. And most of the scenes take place in the kitchen, so the majority of the action just seems to be happening on one side. That's house right. I kind of wish that the director had found a way to make the kitchen more central, just so that the majority of the play is taking place in the center of the stage and not to one side. The lighting feels very naturalistic and appropriate for this naturalistic set, with the exception, of course, of Loomis's vision, which is handled well. It took me into the vision with him. I felt like maybe we could have not done that there. The costumes are absolutely beautiful. They fit the time period and the characters, but they seem too clean and new to me, especially the shoes. I want these costumes to be a little dirtier and torn and mismatched. These are not wealthy people who can launder and iron their clothes every day they wear them. It felt like they were wearing freshly laundered and steamed costumes, which they wore because they're costumes in a Broadway play. So, was I bored? Was I confused? I wasn't bored for a second because this is August Wilson. The writing is incredible. The dialogue, his use with words, the scenes, the action, the actors. So, no, there's no way I can be bored during an August Wilson play. Was I confused? Yes, I was a little bit confused, specifically in the places I've mentioned, both of the places that center around Harold Loomis. I was confused by the staging of his Act 1 vision, and turning the characters into part of the dream pulled me out of the room in a way that muddied these characters for the next scene. And I was confused by Loomis's arc itself. In this production, I just really couldn't track him as a person, and I couldn't feel his shape of his journey the way I did the first time I saw this play. And that confusion, that inability to connect to him is the thing that's keeping this revival from landing with its full impact. So let me wrap this up. Look, I have to be clear. This is a great production in the making. I don't want anything I've said to make it sound like this isn't worth seeing. It is absolutely worth seeing. I think it just needs to gel a little bit. And even if it doesn't gel, these individual performances are great. But I think the ensemble will gel as the run continues, and that the whole thing will improve. So, reasons to see the show. Here's the thing. Anytime there's an August Wilson play on Broadway, you go. Period. It's like Shakespeare. The writing alone is worth the ticket. And if you've got even one great actor doing really good work inside one of these plays, you go. And in this one, you've got 8 great actors doing great work. Cedric, Taraji, Ruben, Nimene, the whole boarding house. So go see this play. It's great. So tickets. I did a rush ticket for this, and I was over on the side of the house, almost a partial view seat. So a quick tip for you if you're doing rush and they offer you a partial view, choose house left. Sit on house left. The staging pushes the actors all the way to both sides of the stage, but there is significantly more activity on house right, which is when you're facing the stage on the right side. The door that people come in and out of, the kitchen table, the sink, Bertha's whole world is in that kitchen. Maddie has a scene where she's sitting on the chair on the left side, but that's just for part of the scene, and so you'll miss her a little bit. So if you have to sacrifice view, sacrifice to the side where less is happening, which means counterintuitively, grab the house left seat and look to the right. So here's where you get your tickets. If you want to see this without paying full price, they have Student Rush for $35. Go find yourself a student. They've got In-Person Rush for $45. Go get up 10 a.m. and go get that. And they've got Telecharge for $49. So join the lottery for that. Go see it, come back, tell me what you thought. So that is August Wilson's Joe Turner's Come and Gone. Was I bored? No. Was I confused? Just a bit, but only by one role in the play. So I'm telling you to go see this anyway. Am I a broken record? So thanks for watching this review. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this one, and I'll see you at the next one, which is The Lost Boys, coming tomorrow. Bye.
Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me. 'Cause I don't wanna be bored and confused.